Hello and welcome to the Ufocast episode 16. This week we're talking about Kill Straker. Kill Straker.
Kill Straker.
We're all going to be doing Mr. on voices in this one, which is fine. Hooray. Now, I've got a largely disappointing synopsis, which I'm sure we can start with, if that would be alright with you.
Go ahead, Michael.
So, in case this is your first time listening to the Ufocast, my name's Michael.
My name's Luke.
And we're going to be discussing Jerry Anderson's UFO from all the way through, because there was one season, and we're doing them all, and we've reached episode 16. Kill Straker. Here we go with the synopsis. Following
hang on. Before you do that,
so, okay.
Kill Straker! Exclamation mark.
Of course it is.
If
only I'd written it down that way. Well, in keeping with the accuracy of my synopses, there is no synopses. There is no exclamation mark on this. And there's no exclamation mark on the Blu-ray menu. Oh no, there is. It's my eyes. It's my eyes. I can't see it. I can see it now. I'm actually down to buy a pair of readers. But that's beside the point. Okay. Following a UFO attack on Paul Foster and Frank Craig in a lunar module, these two previously loyal men begin to wage a campaign of words against Straker, alleging that he is incompetent and obsessed with his command. Things become more serious when Craig attempts to murder Straker, but he fails. Foster then provokes a showdown with Straker, and a battle that Straker wins. During psychiatric treatment, Foster reveals the strange truth. The UFO attack has subjected the two men to a deep subliminal impulse which made them intent on destroying Straker, which would weaken Shadow and leave Earth vulnerable to imminent outer space attack. That's the entirety of the synopsis. I'm sure there's actually more to the plot, like the end bit, which is important.
Yes, which is important and possibly the most interesting part of the episode.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the disappointing synopsis. Hooray! Again.
Yes.
I must admit, I actually really enjoy reading those because you just makes you go, that's not quite it, is it?
Well, I think we should just say that having never attempted to write synopses of these stories before, that I'm not sure I could do it.
No, that's true. To be fair, right? I've just written. There's my novel Geek Myths, which I had to create a synopsis for in order to send it to agents and publishers and things. And writing a synopsis was harder than writing the novel. Well, not quite, but it was a totally different skill set, and it did my head in. It took something like 9 attempts to to get the whole thing, all 98,000 words, into like one side. Yeah. Without me feeling like I'd just betrayed everything. So I completely get it. It is a difficult thing, so I'm not taking the mick that much. But I am enjoying the fact that we're going, ooh, that doesn't quite sound right. Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like people who pick on showrunners on TV or people who think they could be the England manager. It's ridiculous. It's like, oh, yeah, I could do that job dead easy. Yeah, that's why I'm sitting in a pub with a pint and somebody else is doing the job.
Yes.
Yeah. So I understand it's a difficult task. Moving on.
Yes. So this is, as I said last week, that was all about the aliens trying to get Croxley to kill Straker and Freeman. This episode is called Kill Straker. This is about them trying to get Paul Foster and Craig, who we've never seen before. And if I'm remembering this correctly, there is another character called Craig who is coming up in a few weeks. Who, I don't want to spoil that episode for you, but I think it's a surname that gets reused for shadow astronauts.
Is it the equivalent of somebody wearing a red jumper?
No, because the future episode with a character called Craig, and he's the titular character, and he gets much more to do. So I wouldn't say so, but yes, you're right. Frank Craig in this is very much the he's the one there to be there with Foster, so that when they get taken over, you can see what would potentially happen to Foster.
No, it's much more easy than that. It's the royal family. It's the heir and the spare. It's narratively speaking. You need to try the test. You need to tie. Here's what you could have had. They show you on the disposable character.
Yes.
And then the character you can't get rid of, they show you the same thing but different.
Yes. I mean, so you get something like, I don't know. I mean, there must be loads of examples. I'm trying to think. Oh, well, yeah, the Green Death, for example. You have to have characters get infected by it and die, so that you can then go, oh, what's going to happen? Or Revenge of the Cybermen. You have to have somebody killed off early by a Cybermat, so that when Sarah Jane gets attacked, you're like, oh no, she's going to die of poison. And in this case, it's a case of these two guys have been taken over by Straker. Actually, no, I've just come up with the perfect Jerry Anderson example. The very first episode of Captain Scarlet.
Exactly.
You have Captain Scarlet and Captain Brown. And Captain Brown is the disposable one. He's the one that gets turned into a human bomb by the Mystrons and is never seen of again. And then you have Captain Scarlet, who is... I mean, obviously, you haven't really become attached to him because he's the first episode of the show, but he is the title character of the show, so you're like, oh, okay, what's going to happen to him? And
or Captain Black. Captain Black is the person who becomes evil.
Yes,
and
I suppose
Captain Scarlet has exactly the same... in the original version of Captain Scarlet, he's the one who gets exactly the same thing done.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden gets his personality back for no adequately explored reason.
Apart from the fact he got shot and fell off a big car park. Hey!
Because obviously falling off a car park can do... Anyway, crashing on. At least they fixed that in the new version of Captain Scarlet. Because he gets several thousand volts through him as well.
Is that what it is? I'd forgotten how it happens. I have seen the new version of Captain Scarlet.
He gets the Mysteron burnt out of him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But right. So my big. Can I start with my big problem with this story?
Feel free.
And it's sort of the same problem that I have with the Black Guardian trilogy in Doctor Who. In that you set up the fact that there's a character trying to kill the Doctor, and then you in that case you spend 3 stories stopping that happening in increasingly implausible ways potentially. And in this one, you have very early on the viewer knows more than the characters in this one. You know what's happened right from the off, and then you'll watch it. It's like a Columbo episode. You're watching them figure it out. And it's very clear, and it's explained at the end by Dr. Jackson, this very, very specific impulse to kill Straker has been implanted in the heads of both these guys, right?
Right.
And yet, the story goes out of its way to give them charmed lives. Because surely the aliens don't care whether Craig lives or whether Foster lives. As we see with Craig ends up blowing himself up. But surely, if that impulse is there in your head, the minute that Straker walks in the room, blow his face off.
Exactly.
That's the issue that I have with this with the story. It's like actually no,
sense.
Both of them take their time, and Straker and Foster, I suppose. I suppose you could interpret it and say, well, actually, what Foster is trying to do is to kill Straker by removing him from the head of Shadow, and then effectively that's his life over because everything he sacrificed for would be gone. So you could say that Paul Foster is subconsciously interpreting the instruction.
Paul Foster's subconscious is being pedantic in order to try and save someone.
Quite possibly, yes. But that aside, I just think it's if this really happened. Should we say, if there wasn't the fact that that your main characters have to survive it, you would just the first scene it would be Straker walks in, Foster pulls out his gun, shoots him in the face before anybody is suspicious,
or both of the pilots throw themselves at him. Yeah,
or they crash the moon rocket into I don't know any number of things that they could do.
Yes,
but because the script is constrained by the fact that Straker can't die, it has to be then, I think, that little bit implausible in him surviving. I mean, the attempt with the syringe, he just happens to wake up. Or he isn't asleep, I don't know, either way.
Well, to be fair, have you ever tried sleeping on a plastic mattress? Well, you'd wake yourself up with a squeaking. just turning over. So it's probably his own...
He's probably
right.
He's probably only half asleep. Yes, or maybe he just sleeps lightly on alert all the time.
True. because he's a vigilant fox. Yeah,
he is Straker. Yes.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I know we do Jerry Anderson watch and things like that later on, but does it count that the Mysterons are quite clearly the ones trying to hypnotise anyone at the beginning? Does that count as Anderson watch? Because
I mean, not officially in terms of there is no actor crossover at this point. But yes, it is. You're right. It does feel somewhat Mysteron-esque. But then I think there's a reasonable thematic crossover anyway, in that you've got, in the setup of both shows, you've got aliens. I suppose not so much at war with Earth in this one. It's more a sort of it's expediency that brings them to Earth, whereas with the Mysterons it's very much a revenge conflict.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so there should be a procedure for. Oh, we've checked this room. It happens to have 3 chutes going out of it, but we're not going to check it down there, are we?
No, I get it. Yeah, I mean, they even called them the laundry chutes, didn't they?
Yeah.
It is a bit pants. It really is. Can I just compliment because you forget in these days of electronic editing, you forget that every single one of those edits must have been done by hand with a splicer.
Yes.
And the opening abduction scene at the beginning has got things that are lasting 5 frames.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's incredibly intense. The cutting between the UFO model, the model of the shuttlecraft, and the interior of the shuttlecraft,
and the swirly
hypnotism, and the swirly lights is incredible. You're seeing on the back of your eyes. You're seeing all 4 of these images at once. Yeah. It's a magnificent piece of editing and filmmaking.
Yes,
and you do forget that is just hours and hours of work sticking those together.
Yeah, it's all done by hand.
On a nice big Steenbeck, probably.
Yes. And just it looks so good. I mean, particularly on Blu-ray, but even on the DVD, which I've got on in the background right now, is it's really well filmed and shot, and then you've got the bit where the lights go down, haven't you, as well? The lighting of that, the sort of intensity of what you can do on film, and why these shows still look pretty amazing now, because they were made in such a way that they have that longevity. It was very far-sighted of the makers to shoot it in this way. Because you could easily have shot this on film, couldn't you? On video.
Yeah. On video, yeah.
And it would look like Doctor Who does. A lot cheaper than. I mean, I know we love it. We do, but this is easier on the eye.
We love Doctor Who in the way we love our family members. We know they're tremendously flawed, but they're ours. And this is just sleek. These UFO episodes are just great to watch. They're mini movies. Yeah. And all right, the pacing's different and it's of its time, and there's always going to be flaws, but no, it's still great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got the initial thing. So the plot basically splits into 2. You've got 3. You've got the initial incident that they have to deal with, and then we've got Paul's being a bit stroppy.
Yeah.
But wait, are we accepting that it's his subconscious not just immediately killing him?
Well, I think you have to, because otherwise you have the problem that I outlined before, right. And that there's an element of, and I suppose the fact that Craig is the one that resorts to actually trying to kill him first, and one assumes they didn't have such a close kind of working relationship or whatever. And you could also kind of say, well, maybe Craig is more weak-minded or whatever. And so you can make the argument to say, well, actually, Foster has a good bond of friendship. And in fact, there's an interesting sidebar on that in the Bentley book.
I must admit, I've got a note to bring that up as well, if it's the same scene I'm thinking of. Is it the deleted scene that
the deleted scene where he was going to go out and get drunk?
Yeah, interesting.
Which they deleted because it was too far out of character for Straker, which I agree, I think it wouldn't have worked. But the idea that they were kind of going... The reason that they had it in was because of the depth of feeling that Straker had for Foster, which, as I said last time, I think there is a sort of inconsistency between some episodes as to how close they are, because the show establishes very early on the length of friendship between Straker and Freeman, and you can maybe imagine him getting upset over the death of Freeman, but I can't make that link for
no,
Foster.
I can. Are we of the same opinion that Straker's has had a drink problem in the past, and is basically going to his own shadow version of Alcoholics Anonymous, or is it, as I was seeing it, that Straker is so used to being... There's two different types of people who don't drink. Well, three. The first one is people who've had problems in the past.
Yes.
The second one is much more like me, who, people who are control... They might be seen as control freaks. People who don't like not being in control.
Yeah.
And I always saw Straker as more that kind of person. He doesn't drink not for reasons of like... He just doesn't like being in control. It's like when you first have a kid and somebody in the house maybe wants a drink... Even subconsciously, only one of you does that, just in case of emergencies. Or perhaps that's just me.
No, I mean, I
don't know.
My wife doesn't drink, and I'm a very
exactly. I don't drink very much at all.
I seldom drink, and I think you're right. I think, and I would say there's a third group of people, which is probably quite small, of people who just don't like alcohol.
Yeah.
And then I suppose people who don't drink for principled reasons. But yes, I think you're right. Straker is very much the kind who doesn't drink because he needs to be in control.
Letting go. Yeah.
Yes, and I don't think I would see recovering alcoholic in his character. I don't think so.
My reading was definitely that at the beginning when I started watching the series.
Yeah.
But now that I've given it a lot more thought, I'm definitely leaning more towards that, especially after seeing him drink at his wedding. Because like even people who don't drink will drink to celebrate in that sense. So arguably I could have seen him trying to not drown his sorrows, but you know what I mean? Like having a drink to absent friends, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I could have seen him doing that. But that is worthy of note. So at least we're in agreement on that one.
General Henderson is back this episode.
Yay!
What did you make of his appearance, brief though it is?
Well, he's the villain of the piece. Because again, just like last time, there's a bit of UFO action at the beginning, and then there's no more UFOs.
Yes.
And we're always dealing with the after effects of their visitation.
Yeah.
And here he's trying to like mess with somebody. Said, I don't know. Henderson's kind of a MacGuffin here. It's like who do you report Straker to? There's only one person seen in the series that you can do that to, so it has to be Henderson by default.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, he does seem a bit sort of one note.
He just seems angry all the time.
It's another kind of episode where the cost of shadow comes up, and it's this whole Straker's building his empire again stuff.
One of the first attack on him, the thing with the syringe of air in the blood.
Yes.
Right now, I've been in hospital quite a lot. My wife's been in hospital quite a lot, and it's the sort of thing that comes up in conversations with nurses if you're in hospital for more than a month, sat there, and you're worried about... Because you're on a drip, and you're looking at this stuff going into you, and you see air bubbles. You see air bubbles go down those lines.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, oh my God, I've seen too many things where somebody's going to die because there's an air bubble in them.
Yeah.
Right? And then you talk to the nurse, and the nurse goes, that's absolute nonsense. Right? The air, it would just go in your blood and it would just be absorbed.
It would dissolve, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And they go, yeah. So what you do is you take that on board in your own head, so that when you're in hospital, you go, "That's fine. I can see an air bubble down that pipe."
Yeah.
You know what they're doing. But in as soon as I'm watching a movie, you take that information and you lock it away, so you don't think about it. You don't think, "Oh my God, somebody's going to not die."
Because they always do the thing where they squirt they push the plunger on the syringe so that liquid squirts out the top, so they know they're not going to inject you with air.
Yeah,
don't they? That's always a convention of injections.
That's
whereas
true.
Whereas when you have an injection, that never happens. Well, mainly because the syringes are all kind of pre-packed with the stuff in them, aren't they?
True. Yeah.
But anyway, so that wouldn't have worked anyway. Apparently,
that's what the nurse told me. But she might have just been trying to make me feel better about the fact that they were going to kill me.
Well, I mean, you're still here, so it's clearly all right.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. So yeah, you see that in films right now. You've got Straker wandering around, smoking on the moon, which I know we've covered in the past, so we don't have to go on about that again. More. And his reactions are a bit weird, because it's like, "Oh no, somebody's trying to kill me. I'm off back to bed." I mean, this man must really like his sleep, right? So you've got this attempt to kill him.
You've got that whole thing of this guy's tried to kill me. What's happened? And you would think, isn't Foster? And Foster's already been acting strangely at this point. Wouldn't you, at that point, go, "Should we lock him up and find out?"
Yeah, they were missing for 16 hours. Something happened. Even if it was something as like gentle as like the anoxia that was in one of the other episodes that made people go doolally.
It
was just air supply thing. So they'd need to undergo a medical before they were allowed back in general circulation.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you've got the whole 9/11 thing where the guy tries to blow himself and Moonbase up, and they decide to use the one tiny machine gun that's outside to try and take him out. Clearly they've thought perhaps somebody might walk up close and try and kill us at some point, because you've got the other episodes where similar things have happened.
Yeah.
I must admit, there's a something that we would call a CSO shot or a back projection shot where the spaceman's outside the spaceship, outside the leisure dome.
Yes.
And it does look a bit ropey.
Well, it's a bit ropey because the backdrop was clearly reflecting off the metal on his helmet, so it becomes see-through. But it's still better than generally what you'd see on video. It's still very well done. And here's the thing: we were just talking about going back to the hypodermic thing. Foster knows about it.
That's true.
It's the thing that tips Straker off that something's wrong. Eventually, too late, as it turns out.
Yeah.
So there's almost an element of the fact that we never saw what went on, but clearly there was a collaboration behind the scenes between Craig and Foster, at least to the extent that Foster knew what Craig was going to do.
Yeah, I'd not thought of that. That's a very good point.
Well, but I don't know how. We just know that for some reason, Foster knows that Craig tried to kill him with a hypodermic syringe. So
perhaps that's one of the methods that was implanted by the Mysterons.
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't know. What did you think of the scene where they confront each other in the control sphere? And Foster's going to kill him.
Yeah, but he ends up broadcasting it to everyone.
Yes.
It's meant to be all standoffy, but you're just kind of thinking, well, I think both of these people are going to survive. So the tension isn't as much as it could have been, but perhaps that's just me being blasé about the whole thing.
No, I think, like I said, I think that is a weakness of the episode, is that you know it's not going to work out badly. You know that Straker's not going to die, and Foster's not going to die either. They're two main characters at this point. The brave thing would be to have done that, or the more interesting thing, I think.
Yes. Well, I thought the explosion might have taken out some of Moonbase, and perhaps some of the other characters might have died. You know, like when the guy's about to detonate it and take it out, make it much more of an apparent threat.
Yeah.
But it also, that scene the scene you just described, has to balance the scene that happens at the end, where
that's true.
Straker has to, where he gives the command, nobody can open the door, we're going to be locked in here.
Yes.
15 minutes where basically I can thrash him within an inch of his life and no one can say anything, because that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah.
And then basically push him to breaking point, because that's Straker's technique for handling most things.
Yes. But but it's a very... And I suppose that final scene underlines this... and I say supposed... because I don't entirely buy the strength of feeling that this episode suggests that the characters have for each other.
Yes,
but the fact that
especially
Straker,
considering that Paul's in love with the commander of Skydiver.
Well, yes,
as discussed a few episodes ago.
Yes, we were chastised for that in an email for snickering at it. Apparently, so I do apologise if that was how it came across. Actually, no, we probably did. So. Apologies.
So let's just apologise.
Let's just apologise for that. But yes, the fact that basically the episode ends with Straker essentially putting his life on the line to save Foster from the fate that is implied would be waiting for him. No one retires from no one resigns from Shadow.
Yeah, what's all that about?
Well, I think
it basically he will be shot? I
think the implication is that they would have to. Oh well, at the very least, lock him up for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
but potentially the implication being that no, they'd have to kill him because he knows too much.
See, that's not something you'd sign up for, is it? You'd be like, well, I'd like to leave. I found a slightly better job with better pay. Well, I'm sorry, but I think if you'd read your contract properly, we have to kill you now.
Yes, but I mean, I suppose it's a real issue. It's a live issue, isn't it? In the real world, there are spies who resign from, retire from secret services,
but
and
they're
don't
all
get
sent to a small village in North Wales, surely.
Well, I was just going to say it plays into the prisoner, doesn't it? I mean, and obviously
there was something you mentioned. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, these days, the ex-head of MI5 and stuff is known, like, and they do interviews and things like that. So I don't see that you couldn't resign from an organisation like this, but there would have to be sanctions for if you spill the beans.
The people who worked at Bletchley didn't discuss it until the late 80s, and even then, a lot of them wouldn't discuss it at all once it became declassified. So it's the equivalent of that. A few weeks ago, you brought something up and created something in my head, which I've kind of stuck with, which was where you take one program and see how many changes you would need to make to turn it into another one.
Yes,
and I really liked that. So I've kind of looked at this particular episode. And I've realised that it lends itself best to being a Torchwood or, more likely, a Star Trek Next Generation episode. Because this end sequence where somebody's been brainwashed and then they have to be broken in order to make sure that they're not going to become killers, that's a very Torchwoody kind of a thing to me.
Yes, I mean, you can imagine Captain Jack in that mould. I mean, you can even imagine Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, definitely.
Doing it. I'm now trying to think whether there is actually an episode of either of those shows that does this. Because it's the kind of thing that it would make sense for them to have done a plot like that.
It felt like something that would have happened to Riker.
Yeah, quite possibly. Well,
there was lots of episodes like that.
He definitely gets brainwashed into thinking he's in an asylum at some point, doesn't he?
Oh, he gets brainwashed into all sorts.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. It's like, it must be Wednesday.
The whole kind of, there's an impulse that's been buried in this person hypnotically and they're never going to be able to get rid of it thing. Or at least that's what Jackson's diagnosis is.
Because Jackson's always right.
Because Jackson's always right, yes, we know that. And so he's like, no, this impulse is buried deep. It's never going to go away. You could never be sure that he wasn't going to kill you. And so Straker's resolve is then, well, let's just have it out straight away. Let's put us in a situation. It's essentially what... we're full of Doctor Who parallels this week, aren't we? It's essentially what the Seventh Doctor does to Ace. in that he has to break her faith in him.
Yes,
in
so the
order for
Hemivores
her
don't...
psychic field will break down and the ancient Hemivore can kill Fenric. And in this, it's a case of Straker essentially has to bully him and push him so far and be mean to him and put him under the threat of death, essentially, to try and get him to fight back and put him into a position where Foster will snap and shoot. All to prove the point that actually, under those circumstances, he won't.
No, but what he will do is report him to someone for wanting more money to be an empire builder. It's one of those things that if you look at too closely, it doesn't really feel right.
No?
Well, not to me anyway.
I don't know. Which part of it doesn't feel right? The whole.
Well, like you said, if his subliminal message is to kill him,
yeah,
reporting him to someone and saying, "Oh, he's going to spend a bit of money," when really what he's going to do is spend a bit of money, it doesn't feel like a very good plan. It's not going to be in Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
No.
It's like, when you are trying to kill someone, it is best to report them to their superior for doing their job. It's not a piece of ancient wisdom.
The whole point is it's not. It's all about whether Straker is actually doing his job, or whether he's overreaching himself. And that whole thing of I think we talked about it the other week of what would happen if the aliens stopped coming. What would happen to Shadow if the aliens decided, well, let's just stop going for. We're okay. We've got enough body parts. We'll survive for a bit. Let's stop going for 10 years. And hope that the sheer cost of running Shadow will put them off.
That's actually an episode of Terrorhawks from Big Finish.
Is it?
Where Zelda decides not to bother for a while, so that Terrorhawks gets almost decommissioned and taken out of the game. It's quite a clever storyline.
Yeah. So, and I suppose that's the point here is that you have. They even say in the episode that UFO sightings have been down, and Straker's guess from that, and he basically says most of this job is guesswork, is, well, they're waiting and they're going to attack en masse, which, as it turns out, they do in a few episodes' time. But that's a story for another day. Whereas the flip side of that is Foster kind of going, no, you're wrong, and you're just building an empire here. And either could, to an outsider, and to someone like Henderson who has a massive chip on his shoulder, that could be the more plausible explanation.
It does make sense, yeah.
And it's only we, the viewer, who have sympathy for Straker, though he makes it difficult at times. It's only we, the viewer, who have sympathy for Straker, and the way that the stories are told are he's the hero. That we're with him. That we're like, no, he makes the right decisions. And so if he says we need more moon bases, we need more moon bases.
But we've already discussed that what they actually need is more space stations.
Yes.
In a nice, probably 6 of them, at least. Or 5 more. You have moon bases.
And there was a bit even at the beginning of this episode, wasn't there, where they're like, oh, the UFO's changed course, the interceptors aren't going to make it, and you go, well, that's.
Or last time in ESP, where the interceptors fired their missiles, they thought they'd killed it, and what had happened was it had dodged. It had slowed down, and then they'd fired all of their missiles, and then it just flew straight past.
Yes.
Going, oh, sorry, mate, design flaw. You've only got 1 missile each.
Yes. Yeah, it'd be like in D&D. It's like, and the UFO took the dodge action, and the UFO missed. Yes. I wonder, could you do an RPG version of UFO?
Oh, quite easily. I'd probably use the generic universal role playing system, the GURPS one, because I've already got the GURPS, Steve Jackson's one.
Right.
Because it was a generic role playing system that was adaptable to any genre. Yeah. I've already got the Prisoner version myself, so you could definitely. I know the Prisoner role playing game. Oh, that sounds nice. Sorry, I've just remembered there's a scene in this where there's a window cleaner turns up at one point to distract Paul. He like taps on the glass. It's like, hello, I'm here to clean the windows
on the moon base. Yes.
Yeah. I always found that funny. Sorry, you're asking a question about
No, I was
RPGs.
just saying, there's the Thunderbirds board game. I think at the same time the Thunderbirds board game came out 2015, there was you could buy a pack of cards which were essentially role-playing scenarios. And you could basically use the Thunderbirds board game board to kind of plot what you were doing, but it was essentially doing a role-playing thing. With the difference, you picked a scenario.
I've never heard of that. That sounds so cool.
I think it was only about a tenner to get the pack of cards. I don't know whether it's still available. I've got the board game, you see, so I could get it, but then I'd have to find a bunch of people who are willing to play it with me.
I think you'll find that is an entirely different podcast involving Skype and some video.
I'm sure it is. But anyway, what we were saying. Yeah, so if you were doing a UFO role playing game.
Yes.
Who would you want? And you were playing an existing character. Who would you want to play?
I do like Gay on the Moon. I think she rocks.
Right.
Obviously, I wouldn't get to be Keith Ford. He'd have to be an NPC because he would be telling everyone exactly what's going on.
Yes.
No, I think you'd have to start off being a shadow mobile driver and work your way up.
Work your way up. Yes.
Yeah.
But
as an introductory scenario, you'd probably be best off doing what the TV show did, which was having a Paul Jackson character, Paul Foster character.
Paul Foster character, yeah.
To try and get into the organisation.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm giving this too much thought.
You are giving it too much thought.
I know what I'll be thinking about for the next fortnight.
Yes. UFO roleplay. Yes, so
it'll distract me from UFO 2020. It really will.
I've just noticed that I think all the targets have bullet holes in all the same places, which suggests that they just kind of copied one lots of times and didn't really think about the fact that they're supposed to have all been used differently.
So, have we got anything else we need to see?
I don't think so.
No.
Only that we're in this sort of in the way of shows at the time. You've basically reset back to normal at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Like Foster is fine. He's going to shoot Straker. No, he doesn't. Oh, it's okay. That means we've sorted out the impulse in your head and don't have to worry about it ever again.
Yep. Welcome back to the crowd.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Is there anyone from Prisoner Watch?
Yes. So pretty much.
We do Anderson Watch first.
Well, you do Anderson Watch.
Traditionally.
Basically, everybody in this pretty much is an extra. That we should talk about the writer. We can come to him last. And there is one person we should talk about in particular because he's going to be at ShadowCon.
Oh, yes?
Yes. So, there is an extra called Alan Harris, who plays one of the Interceptor pilots. And you can see him in the scene in the Leisure Dome when the lights go out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an extra in a couple of other episodes of UFO that we haven't seen yet. He's also an extra playing a photographer in Doppelganger. And he appears in 16 episodes of Space 1999 as various things.
Which is quite a lot.
Yes. He's probably he sounds like he's the Pat Gorman of Space 1999.
Excellent.
He's also an extra in all the original Star Wars films.
All of them?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, he plays a different character in each of them. But yes, in Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, he is in. And then let's just quickly go into Doctor Who Watch briefly. He is an extra in The Face of Evil, playing one of the tribe, and he's a Vervoid. In Terror, one of the 6 Vervoids is Alan Harris, and he's going to be at ShadowCon too. So if you want to hear him talk about his time on a UFO, then come to ShadowCon too.
Oh, he's going to have some great stories.
One other person of note in Anderson Watch, and this is her second time, is Louise Pageau, and we talked about her in Court Martial. So if you want
Right.
a conversation on that, go back to Court Martial. And then Prisoner Watch, there is a chap called John Clifford who plays one of the Shadow Operatives. Again, he's an extra, and he's an extra in a couple of episodes of The Prisoner. So I think he's one of these people that you have to figure out who he was in this, and then try and spot him in the episodes of The Prisoner that you're watching, because he has no lines. But let's talk about the writer. Did you notice who wrote this episode?
Well, I didn't, but according to my synopsis, if I can just read that, is it Alan Perry? No, that's a director.
No, he's the director, yeah.
I can't. Like I said, I do need readers. It's Donald James.
Donald James, yes. So, if you just look at the list of writers,
Okay.
he only wrote one episode of UFO. But
Right.
that would sort of belie the truth. And again, this a lot of this comes out in the Bentley book. So he was involved in shaping a lot of the early episodes. He commissioned people like Rurik Powell to write those episodes that we talked about weeks ago now. And so although this is his only credited episode, I think from what I've gathered, he either kind of came up with story ideas or co-wrote without being credited, or did kind of rewrites on a lot of the episodes in this block. And when I mean this block, I mean the first 17 episodes of UFO before the sort of production break. But do you know what else he wrote for Jerry Anderson?
I must admit, I don't.
Well, let's quickly rattle those
It's
off.
going to be The Protectors.
Yes, so 7 episodes of The Protectors, 3 episodes of Joe 90, 3 episodes of The Secret Service, 3 episodes of Space 1999. There's a pattern coming on here, isn't there? But
Yes.
I suppose the big thing, aside from UFO, is that he co-wrote the screenplay for Doppelganger with Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, which I think is in some ways what led to him working on UFO.
No, that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So,
And also, he would know exactly all the props and everything, so that makes total sense. Yeah.
So, and before I read the Bentley book, I had no idea how significant he was. So I think aside from Tony Barwick, obviously who had a massive influence on this bit of UFO, Donald James is sort of second to that.
I mean, from an American TV point of view, he's practically an executive producer.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's difficult, isn't it, with what role equates to what role in different things.
But he clearly had a lot to do with what was going on. So, right, we've got everyone listed.
I think that's it. That's it for our watches this week. So, what are we doing next week, Michael? Tell us about next week.
Well, next time is, and he quickly reaches for his book and turns over the page and then tries to read by the light of the moon, 17, Subsmash, an episode that does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yes, and it's significant because it's as I just said, it's the last episode of the first production block of UFO. So the final 9 episodes are something slightly different.
And also, that is very true, but also it's one of the episodes with the commentary on the discs.
It is. It's the commentary from Ed Bishop,
which is pretty good.
Yes, I listened.
It was one of his favourites, wasn't it?
Yes, but I seem to recall you're not a fan. But we will talk about that next time.
I am, but that's mainly because it's submarines.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll dig into all of that next time.
We certainly
on the Ufocast.
But until then, be seeing you.
Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Ufocast with me, Luke, from Tmudwup.
And me, Michael, from the Tin Dog Podcast.
Please get in touch with the show. Let us know what you think and any feedback you might have at ufocast@yahoo.com.
Or on Twitter at UFO_cast. Available on Stitcher and iTunes. "2018 brings with it 3 brilliant conventions, all held at the Derby Quad. ShadowCon 2. The UFO convention will be on June the 30th, 2018. Hooverville, the best little Doctor Who convention in the world, is on Saturday the 1st of September, while Big Finish Day is on the 3rd of November 2018. All tickets are available from the Derby Quad website. That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.